Res judicata and constructive res judicata. Difference between res judicata and constructive res judicata explained under section 11 and explanation 4 of CPC. Landmark judgments of Appeals Court. Do subscribe the channel Drive on Law and click bell icon to get notifications by Drive on Law. Res judicata, section 11 of CPC. No court shall try any suit or issue in which the matter directly and substantially in issue has been directly and substantially in issue in a former suit between the same parties or between parties under whom they are any of them claim litigating under the same title in a court of competent to try such subsequent suit or the suit in which issue has been subsequently raised and has been heard and finally decided by such court. So earlier I said that already if the former court decided the suit between the same parties and same subject matter and the same cause of action, then the subsequent suit is not maintainable and it's barred by res judicata. The explanation 1 explains that the expression of former suit shall denote a suit which has been decided prior to the suit in question whether or not it was instituted prior thereof. Means here the institution is not important when it was instituted. Even subsequent suit also, if it is decided first, means prior, then it is considered as a prior suit only. Means the judgment has to be decided. Means the judgment should be passed in the case which was earlier, means prior, done by the subsequent suit. Then subsequent suit is barred with the res judicata. For the purpose of this section, the competence of a court shall be determined irrespective of any provision as the right of appeal from the decision of such court. So the court should be competent while passing the judgment. Explanation 3. The matter above referred to must in a former suit have been alleged by one party and either denied or admitted expressly or impliedly by the other. Means whatever the matter decided by the former court, that should be alleged by one party, that is plaintiff, and denied by the defendant expressly or impliedly. Explanation 4. Any matter which might or ought to have been made ground of defense or attacked in such former suit shall be deemed to have been a matter directly and substantially in issue in such suit. That we call as a constructive res judicata. We further explain about the constructive res judicata. Explanation 5. Any relief claimed in the plaint which is not expressly granted by the degree shall for the purpose of this section be deemed to have been refused. Means whatever the relief which was raised by the plaintiff, that is which is not expressly granted by the degree, means that when in the degree that relief is not mentioned by the judge, then that is considered as a refused, deemed as a refused. Explanation 6. Where persons litigate bona fide in respect of public right or of a private right claimed in a common for themselves and others, all persons interested in such right shall, for the purpose of this section, be deemed to claim under the person so litigating. Means if more number of people litigates, means fights for one case, that we call as a representative suits. So the purpose of the suit will remain as same for all the persons. Explanation 7. The provision of this section shall apply to the proceedings for the execution of a degree, and reference in this section of any suit, issue or former suit shall be construed as references respectively to proceedings for the execution of the degree, question arising in such proceedings, and a former proceedings for the execution of that degree. Means res judicata applies to the execution proceedings also. Explanation 8. An issue heard and finally decided by a court of limited jurisdiction competent to decide such issue shall operate as a res judicata in a subsequent suit, notwithstanding that such court of limited jurisdiction was not competent to try such subsequent suit or the suit in which such issue has been subsequently raised. It means if the court which has a limited jurisdiction which is competent to decide such suit decided that suit, then it does not bar the res judicata, taking the plea that the court does not have the proper jurisdiction. Section 11 embodies the rule of conclusiveness of the judgment. It enacts that once a matter is finally decided by the competent court, no party can be permitted to reopen it in subsequent litigation. To bring an end to litigation and to save the parties from constant troubles, harassment and expenses, this rule was made in the court. Means once the judgment is passed by the court, that is considered as a final. So on the same litigation, subsequently the parties are restrained to move the other case. Constructive res judicata. Section 11 of CPC Code speaks about the doctrine of res judicata, whereas explanation 4 of section 11 speaks about the doctrine of constructive res judicata. The rule of direct res judicata is limited to a matter actually in issue alleged by one party and either denied or admitted by the other party expressly or impliedly. But the rule of constructive res judicata provides that if a plea could have been taken by a party in the proceedings between him and his opponent, he should not be permitted to take their plea against the same party in the subsequent proceedings with reference to the same subject matter. Constructive res judicata is a subset of the doctrine of res judicata. Constructive res judicata sets a bar any claim being raised in the later proceedings if the claim should ought to have been raised and decided in an earlier proceeding. The doctrine seeks to prevent the determination of claim which were failed to be brought at the appropriate time in the earlier proceedings. It means in res judicata the party should be same and also subject matter should be same and the litigation should be the same, and the parties who took the litigation between the same parties and same litigation, it is decided by the former court, then the subsequent court is not maintainable and it bars with the res judicata. So what is the difference between res judicata and constructive res judicata? Means constructive res judicata, the parties ought to take, means the parties thought to take some of the ground in the earlier suit, but they not taken having the ample opportunity to put the same issue and objection or allegation before the former court. But they not put and the judgment was passed, and subsequently they are taking that ground to make the separate suit. Then that suit will be barred in the constructive res judicata, saying that later proceedings if the claim should ought to have been raised and decided in the earlier proceedings, means the same question can be decided in the earlier proceedings, but here the either party, he may be the plaintiff or defendant, both parties not taken that plea in the earlier suit, then they are precluded by taking the plea in the subsequent suit and it bars with the constructive res judicata. Thus, it helps in raising the bar of res judicata by suitably construing the general principle of subjugating a cantankerous litigant. That is why this rule is called as a constructive res judicata, which is reality is an aspect of or amplifications of the general principle of res judicata. Here are some illustrations to understand the constructive res judicata clearly. The widow makes a gift to her brother B of certain amount belonging to A. After the death of the widow, C, alleging that he and A were members of a joint Hindu family, sues B for the declaration of his title to the property by right of survivorship. The suit fails on the finding that A and C were separate. So here the widow makes a gift to the brother B for the certain property belonging to A. So subsequently C files a suit and takes a ground that C and A were the members of the joint family and sues for the declaration of a title, and he is the survivor for the particular case, survivorship of the particular case. Then the suit was dismissed because it does not have the proper grounds. Subsequently C cannot subsequently file a suit sue B to recover the same property on the ground that he was the nearest reversioner heir of A, because C might and ought to have set up in the former suit both the capacities under which he claimed to be entitled to the property. Here, why it attracts the constructive res judicata means the same plea what he is taking, what the C is taking, that he is the nearest reversioner heir of A, is not taken in the former suit. So, which makes the same subject matter. Then he cannot take that plea in the subsequent suit. It bars with the constructive res judicata. The same thing applies to the defendant. Even plaintiff and defendant, whatever the grounds which was there for them, they have to take in the former suit, and if they intentionally miss and which ought to take in the former suit miss that, and if they go for the other case, it is not maintainable. He cannot raise such grounds of defense in the subsequent suit which might and ought to have been raised in the former suit. A files a suit against B for recovery of money on the promissory note. B contends that the promissory note was obtained from him by undue influence, means by fiduciary relationship, by authority he obtained the promissory note. The suit is decreed in spite of his objection, means the suit was decreed in favor of the means A. The defendant subsequently wants to challenge the promissory note by a fresh suit on the ground of fraud and coercion. That this he cannot do, as it was the duty to have resisted the former suit on the ground of fraud or coercion as well. Means here defendant has not taken the plea that the suit in the earlier suit. He has taken only the ground that promissory note was executed by him by the undue influence. So here subsequently he cannot take other ground that which he missed, means he ought to take in the former suit, that is fraud or coercion. So that ground he cannot take in the subsequent suit. Similarly, where a defendant did not raise all the objections which he might and ought to have raised in the former litigation in controverting the plaintiff claim, he will be barred from raising them in subsequent suit between the same parties. Means this constructive res judicata applies to the both parties, that is plaintiff and defendant. So both parties who ought to take their pleas in the former suit not takes the pleas in the former suit, then they bar to take the in the subsequent suit by attracting the constructive res judicata. Where the matter has been actually an issue in the former suit between the same parties litigating under the same title in a court competent to try such subsequent suit, it must have been heard and decided for the purpose of constituting res judicata. But where a matter has been constructively in issue, it could not from the very nature of things be heard and decided. Nevertheless, it will be deemed to have been heard and decided against the party omitting to allege it, provided the conditions of the res judicata are complied with. The plaintiff is precluded from raising in the subsequent suit the ground of attack he might and ought to have raised in the former suit. Which means in res judicata, when we are taking the example of res judicata, the allegation raised by the plaintiff and denied by the defendant will be tried by the competent court. I mean, full-fledged adjudication done on the merits of the case. On the merits of the case, the judgment will be passed. But when we take into the constructive res judicata, here the allegation is not decided by the earlier court. Even though it is not decided, but the plaintiff is precluded from raising it in the subsequent suit, because the ground of attack means whatever he wanted to attack the plaintiff or defendant, he might and ought to have raised, means he has the opportunity to ought to raise the same thing in the former suit, but he not taken that plea. Then even though it is not decided by the former suit, but it bars him to file a subsequent suit. The general rule is that if a matter could have been set up as a ground of attack or defense in the alternative in the former suit, and if its introduction into that suit was necessary for the complete and final decision of the right claimed by the plaintiff therein, it will be deemed to be matter which ought to have been made a ground of attack or defense in the suit. Unless the matter in that and in the subsequent suit are dissimilar, that where union might lead to the confusion. Means unless the ground which was taken by the plaintiff or defendant is completely dissimilar, then only it does not attract the constructive res judicata. But if the matter is same, then the constructive res judicata attracts. An adjudication is conclusive and final not only as to the actual matter determined, but as to every other matter which the parties might and ought to have litigating and have had its decided as incidental to or essential connected with the subject matter of the litigation, and every matter coming within the legitimate purview of the original action, both in respect of matter or claim or defense. Means whatever the grounds they have, whatever the claims they have to take all it together collectively in the former suit. If they ought to take which is not taken by them, then they cannot litigate the same in the subsequent suit. Landmark judgments. State of UP versus Nawab Hussain, AR 1977. A sub-inspector of police was dismissed from service by DIG. He challenged the order of dismissal by filing a writ petition in the High Court on the ground that he was not afforded a reasonable opportunity of being heard before passing of the order. The contention was, however, negatived and the petition was dismissed. He then filed a suit and raised an additional ground that since he was appointed by the IGP, the DIG has no power to dismiss him. The state contended that the suit was barred by constructive res judicata. The trial court, appellate court and the High Court held constructive. The suit was not barred, but the Supreme Court held that the suit was barred by constructive res judicata as the plea was within the knowledge of the plaintiff and could well have taken in the earlier writ petition. Here the sub-inspector, what he is taken in the earlier petition, that the reasonable opportunity is not afforded to him while dismissing him from the position as a sub-inspector. But subsequently the petition was dismissed and he not satisfied the court in a proper way and it was dismissed. But subsequently he taken the other plea. What plea he taken means he was appointed by the IGP and the DIG does not have the power for his dismissal. So he taken the other plea. Here even though the trial court and also the district court and high court given favor in the SI's favor, but Supreme Court said that the ground which he had to take in the former suit he missed and he is taking the new ground which he missed in the earlier suit. So here it bars with the constructive res judicata. In Forward Construction Corporation and others versus Prabhat Mandal, Aderi and others, the Supreme Court explained the scope of constructive res judicata as envisaged in explanation 4 of section 11 of CPC and observed that the High Court was not right in holding the earlier judgments would not operate as res judicata as one of the grounds taken in the present petition and conspicuous by its absence in the earlier petition. Applicability of constructive res judicata in writ petitions. The question arose for the first time before the Supreme Court in Amalgamated Coalfields Limited versus Janapada Sabha AR 1964 whether the concept of constructive res judicata can be applied in writ petition or not. In Devilal Modi versus STO AR 1965, Supreme Court clarified the stand and said the principle of constructive res judicata also applies in writ petition. A direct question, however, arose before the Supreme Court in State of UP versus Nawab Hussain AR 1977. The court held the principle of constructive res judicata is applicable. Supreme Court in Ghulam Sarwar versus Union of India and Lalubai versus Union of India respectively, it should be noted that the principle of res judicata and constructive res judicata are held not applicable in habeas corpus petitions. It is in the interest of justice that the party should bring forward his whole case in respect of the matter in suit. The matter directly and substantially in issue may either as actually in issue or constructively in issue, and both the matters constitute res judicata if the same were in issue in the former suit and also in issue in the subsequent suit. Explanation 4 to section 11 says that any matter which might or ought to have been made a ground of defense or attack in the former suit shall be deemed to have been a matter constructively in issue in that suit. Thus, if a matter which might and ought to have been raised by the plaintiff in a former suit is not raised by him, then he would be estopped from raising the same question in the subsequent suit between the same parties. In the case of A.R. Antule versus R.S. Nayak, one of the first and highest duties of all courts is to take care that the act of the court does not injury to the suitors. It has been said that an act of the court shall harm none, that is, actus curia neminem gravibit. All courts, therefore, are bound to take care that their acts do not cause harm or injury to suitors. The Supreme Court ordered withdrawal of a case against the appellant pending in the court of the special judge and transferred it to the High Court of Bombay. A preliminary objection was raised by the appellant against the jurisdiction of the Bombay High Court. It was, however, negative by the court. The appellant then approached the Supreme Court. It was contended that the direction was contrary to law and could not have been issued. These arguments of the respondent was of res judicata, allowing the appeal and recalling the earlier order. The apex court observed that the direction was violative of the fundamental rights of the appellant and no rule of res judicata would apply to such situation. The doctrine of res judicata can be understood as something which restrains the either party to move the clock back during the pendency of the proceedings. The extent of res judicata is very wide and it includes a lot of things which even includes public interest litigation. This doctrine is applicable even outside the code of civil procedure and covers a lot of areas which are related to the society and people. The scope and the extent have widened with the passage of time and the Supreme Court has elongated the areas with its judgments. This is about the constructive res judicata. Do subscribe the channel Drive on Law and click bell icon to get notifications by Drive on Law. We proceed with the further class in next video.